Welcome to Socializing Security, where every week we have a discussion about security, compliance, and beyond.
Our goal is to learn and grow by socializing each week's topic with each other, our guests, and with you.
A quick compliance note, this podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal or regulatory advice.
We're glad you've joined us, and we hope you'll learn along with us. Hey all, welcome back to another episode of Socializing Security. We've got kind of a special episode this week. I think we're going to go ahead and still post the audio in the normal podcast feed, but we may make an appeal to all of you listening to the podcast as audio only to flip over to our YouTube channel this time. Give it a shot. Actually watch us. I know I tend to not watch video versions of my podcast, but this is one that you're probably going to want to, as Milou has a new space that she's going to show off to us. So we definitely want to encourage you to be able to see it, not just listen to her talk about it. So definitely one of those episodes to lean towards the YouTube channel. So if you've never looked for our YouTube channel, just go to youtube.com, search for Socializing Security, and it should pop up very first thing with the same kind of logo that you're used to seeing, because we use more or less the same design across the socials. So yeah, we kind of pre-recorded that piece of things. So hopefully we can edit out some of the technical issues that we had along the way. And so forgive us for that if we can't do all the editing there, but we hope you enjoy this peek into something new that's coming particularly for Milou, but she's dragging me along with it.
Pretty sure. Here we go. Let's open up and show the world Torote Co in the intention that it is truly, this is the sneak preview. My clients will not be getting necessarily this type of introduction to it. It's still very messy, and it's still very much, this is day, I guess, 3 of me unboxing furniture. So I'm honestly really proud of the fact of where it is already at, but I'm ready to just hit the ground running. So let's socialize with everybody and let's introduce the new space. And we have headquarters now.
Let's go to another episode of Socializing Security. One of us has a slightly different perspective on things today. Milou, what's going on with where you're at?
We now officially have an HQ, so Socializing Security can now actually host people in person in Austin at a place called Torote Co, which is one of my ventures. So fortunately, my small businesses kind of grew out of my home office, including our podcast. And so what better way to really kick this off is just in some chaotic, just pre-launch for the pod.
Milou, why don't you kind of just take over due to some technical issues, and I'll let you just kind of give a tour of the place and kind of what people can expect going forward from us on at least your side of the video.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, so I'll just walk you through. I'm joining on my phone, which is probably why we're having some latency issues, that it seems like Brian and I are much further apart than Texas and Nebraska. It seems like we might be across the world today. So yeah, basically, my small businesses needed a place where my clients could also be able to meet, and also that we could do some really cool things in person together. We're just Brian and I both given our podcast is something that we do as a hobby and it's for fun. It's been a really amazing support for our full-time careers. And I wanted to also just give us the opportunity to really actually lean into that and have this socializing space in person with, tech leaders, tech founders, friends, colleagues all over the world, that if, for whatever reason they happen to be in Austin, they can come swing by Torote Co and actually hang out with us, potentially do a live in-person recording. I think Brian is probably more excited about the actual technology setup than I am, but we're going to make sure too that it's a full-fledged, true recording studio. There are some other podcasters in this particular space that I invested in. And so there are definitely friends that I'll be able to learn from directly and just be able to chat with them about their technology stack of what's working versus what's not. It's a unique space. I've added a lot more cozier furniture on the backside where Socializing Security's HQ is for sound absorption a little bit. And we'll do some really cool paneling as well. I'm looking into more of the artistic side of this, I suppose. And I think Brian might care a little bit more about the actual technical hardware. Is that fair?
Yes, that is fair.
Okay, so I'm going to try my best to walk through, and I'll go slow in the case that it disconnects. I'm on just the general Wi-Fi, which is at least it meets the minimum requirements for what my clients would be looking for necessarily, but it does not meet are necessarily streaming capabilities. So we're going to need to make sure that we get hooked up with some private setup. But please be mindful. I just moved. So like everything's still in boxes. The electrician's set to come out. Like half of this doesn't even have power. So we are very much in the like, this is the private sneak preview for the Socializing Security guest. And for those of us who have been like interacting with our podcast for what now, we've been doing this for over 2 years, which is so cool to say. I'm letting you just chime in occasionally, Brian.
Yeah, that's fine. The lag is making this tough for us to do our normal kind of back and forth, which is okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
Well, I
definitely
will walk
excited
through
for this possibility.
Awesome. So Socializing Security for me, like all of the icons and everything for me, like my Gmail and all that stuff for this particular company has always been green. And so when getting this space, I really felt like the Socializing Security, like, you know, part of our logo, it's very colorful, but for me, anytime like, you know, like Brian, like our signal chat for me is always like green bubbles and everything. So I leaned into that. I'm huge into plants. And so for this, we did kind of a more like masculine theme for the design for the actual HQ here. So let me figure out how to flip my camera here. Can I flip my camera on this? I'm not sure that I can. This is an interesting dilemma. Okay. I guess we're doing it backwards. But okay. So this is what we've envisioned for the podcast, like recording studio and kind of epicenter here. So we will actually have like, I got the podcast chairs without even like Brian even realizing what was happening. Kind of, I think you were like the first person that I told that was like, hey, this like kind of like wild thing, like this opportunity arose for compliance counsel. And it was kind of like, hey, like, I think we're going to try to make sure that it fits all of my ventures so that it's kind of like an accelerator for all of the startups that I have and that Brian also kind of works with. So this is the actual podcast studio. This is what I've envisioned for like our individual chairs. So there's two, but there's also the possibility here, which is really cool. We'll be able to get some specific like tech, like a really fancy like camera, like video conferencing recording option that can actually, you know, swivel with who's talking. And we probably are going to need two different ones because the intention is not only could we have at least two people, we could have comfortably probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 in a room socializing together. And like that, I think has always been Brian and I's dream. I know it's definitely been mine where we could actually have our buddies and friends and some of these like incredible people that have come and socialized with us on the podcast to actually do this in person every once in a while and see if we can somehow get on Brian's wildly crazy busy work travel schedule to figure out if he can join us in person, you know, on a more regular basis that we could actually start doing, you know, socializing security, like events at around certain times of the year in Austin. The first one will be around South by Southwest, where I'm actually doing my kickoff for something called the HERS conference. And so that'll be actually the first time what Brian and I are going to actually like test this and hopefully do like a live studio recording with as many trips that we can actually get in my space. And then there is also some common areas. So I will take a pause and let Brian jump in while I climb down the stairs and hopefully don't trip.
Yeah, good luck.
And wave the lights on.
We definitely have had some good success with in-person recording around RSA last year at the RSA conference. So yeah, that was super exciting for us to be able to get that to work. You know, I have, you know, we've slowly been collecting a little bit of gear here and there to be able to do kind of a mobile studio. So, you know, being able to do it in person is a very different dynamic than what we're used to. You know, a lot of podcasters are pretty successful doing it that way. With the crazy travel I have and Milou has, and sometimes they overlap, which was really nice last year. Hoping we can do more of that. Having both kind of
I will be at RSA. It's confirmed. I will be at RSA.
Cool. Yes, I will definitely be there as well. So we'll of course we should probably start planning that stuff now because that's coming up here in 3 months, 2 months
So
as we
soon.
record this.
So soon.
But yeah, I mean, being able to have both, you know, our normal way of doing it that everybody's used to, having kind of a mobile studio that's a little bit more of a hacked together type of a kit that we can use as we're both on the road. And then, you know, maybe the occasional trip through Austin, which unfortunately is not an easy trip between Omaha and Austin, but being able to have that studio space and to be able to maybe, you know, pick a week where I work down there and we try to bring in as many people as we can, you know, whether it's a conference or something that happens to be going on there.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so I'll so obviously we have the Socializing Security like HQ, but for me, a lot of some of the best conversations that I've had socializing in the tech space and also just like as an attorney and a lawyer, like it's been actually like around the social part of like the culture of actually like working in person. And I think I've heard now I believe in San Francisco, there's like a trend called like a founders cafe. And I didn't realize that that was a thing. And now apparently I have that. So I didn't realize that that was what I was building. I actually worked for Capital One when I was in law school. And so I know like Capital One with the Capital One Bank, that's like one of the first like original ideas of this like social bank where they were trying to bring in their clients to actually like convert actually from credit card users to actually banking. And so that's actually my first example of that working well, but took forever to ramp up. Now you see like Capital One banks like more frequently, but when I was there, they had just opened the first one. And so that was my first like true example of, oh, hey, like let's kind of give back to our clients and give them an option where they can actually basically go to like a Starbucks kind of equivalent, but it actually happens to be their bank where hopefully we can bring together their clients and their potential business partners in one space. So for me, that's actually from my like career background that I have that experience. And so I'm also really into plants. I'm a former artist who's definitely going to get back into art soon. And I'm also really into coffee, all of those things. So each kind of individual venture that I have kind of we're trying to represent within the actual square footage that we have. I only have like 630 square feet. So it's a small space, but and again, mind you, there are like boxes and everything here. It's a really big like trip hazard at the moment. But my law firm is called Counsel. And so the law firm has like a true like table where you can actually like have a conversation. And when the door comes down, it's actually quite soundproof. So it actually like should be able to meet like attorney-client privilege requirements and stuff. And then we'll be building out with one of my carpenters, like a full bar top here to actually have, but everything is like in the space of cars. I'm also just really into Formula One. And so all of my neighbors have cars or they're into cars. And so it's also just part of like my culture. And so everything within the space too, like probably is going to be put on wheels or at least on sliders so that eventually we can also move stuff out occasionally and bring in like a car to actually like have it in the space. The coffee house is the part I'm the most excited about. This is the piece that now I'm starting to search for my incredible refurbished Italian espresso machine. So that's the part where the goal is eventually probably like 2 or 3 days a week. We will have coffee hours where individual guests can come socialize with us, come talk to compliance counsel, come talk to representatives of my different companies, and actually just have like a standing appointment where we have a barista here just actually pouring coffees for like the small business owners around here. Eventually that might be like monetized, but for right now, the goal is for me to just like network and meet my new friends and to just get them into the space so we can talk about it. So that'll be really fun. I'm going to start interviewing like baristas soon here. And like, I am a snob when it comes to coffee. My mom used to always call herself the coffee snob. I've taken that over. So at home, I have like European grade espresso machines from Italy and from Germany. And so because I'm Dutch, I just have a very specific taste for what a European espresso is versus like an American coffee. So we're going to have an Italian grade, like professional espresso machine. And then this space is actually where like my staff will make sure that, you know, if people are coming in, they're taken care of. I do think for me, the most successful coffee houses that I've ever been to have always, you know, if they paid for coffee, the treats are on us. And so that's kind of the mindset. I've been having a really fun time, like for holiday gifts for clients and stuff, testing some of the best chocolate in the world, some of the best candies in the world. And so we'll have stuff like, you know, we're doing samples right now where we have Brazilian chocolates that are really great. I can't eat these because I have a bunch of food allergies, but that doesn't mean that my client need to suffer in the same way that I do. So coming up with specific different types, I'm trying to support small businesses and things from around the world and places that I just like have been to or would love to just support. So yeah, thinking about like better donuts and all this kind of stuff. So that part of it, we're trying to make sure that, you know, someone's eventually going to come and get a really nice coffee that they can also just have chocolate with their coffee because that's just how the Europeans do it. And I just think it's better. So I'm going to lean into that. Super into plants. And so you can see the whole plant menagerie is here. I basically cleared out Trader Joe's and I'm now, the space is really dry because it's a like industrial grade garage. You know, my plants are going to need water like 2 or 3 times a day, probably. I personally am really into plants because I'm Dutch. I think it's just like cultural for me. Okay, perfect.
Okay. So one of the things I love about what I'm hearing here is really kind of 2 things. One is a focus on community and wanting to specifically build a community of people, both both the people locally within that same building with you, but also clients and other startup founders, maybe in the area, people that we are socializing with from a security perspective, kind of bringing them all together and forgive the use of the phrase, but creating a melting pot of ideas, which I think is really, really awesome for the potential of what could come out of that.
Yeah.
The other thing I really love is that it's a space that you're truly making your own and melding all of your different interests in. And that is one of those areas that has always been a dream of mine too, is like, how can I take all of these individual bits and pieces of things that excite me and combine them into one thing that works together.
I've thought about
So
you
yeah,
on that.
I
There
love it.
are Legos. They are coming.
Yes.
The puzzle section has Legos that I will start to probably be building. But I have thought about you in the space as well too, because I wanted to make sure too that the Socializing Security HQ felt like us and not just like me. And that's why
Yeah. I
I lean
appreciate
more
that.
towards probably like a masculine design in that particular area versus like this is a little bit more feminine. But I wanted to make sure too that you felt represented. So yeah, I'm hopeful that maybe we need to order a Lego specifically for you to build to contribute so that you're here too. So I know there's one that you have your
Hey,
eye on. I think maybe was it which Star Wars one? There's one I know specifically for Star Wars, which I'm super into Star Wars too. So actually some of the puzzles are actually Star Wars themed, which I know you're going to be all into. So
yeah, just make sure to hide that stuff for me when I'm there to set up the technology stuff, because that'll just be a distraction for me.
it is put away, but there will always probably be one out. So that puzzles for me sometimes, especially as a lawyer and stuff like, and when I'm representing clients, especially in some of like the tougher stuff, like, yeah, I mean, obviously if we're building out compliance programs, some of it's relatively straightforward, but if we're in the middle of an M&A transaction or, employment matter, that's when like things get contentious really quickly. Also, like I represent startups and sometimes like funding is tough and then it's easy to take that out on your consultants or your allies. And so I also sometimes just have to have space where I can be like, all right, I need to do something different for 20 minutes because I get yelled at a lot at work. That's just, I think, a common theme for lawyers. As much as I try my best not to lean into that, I also just sometimes I'm like, all right, I need to take a walk or I need a dog break or I need like something different, coloring, whatever. And so I want to make sure too that people feel that way too, that, I'm going to kind of create like office hours around it. Otherwise, like I'm going to create a space that's so fun that no one's doing work. So then the opposite intention. It's just, yeah, so I can continue to walk through it, but this is like the plant space. I've been like just cleaning out Trader Joe's. They just opened one near me. And so it's been coming up with like just like getting plants that are like pretty low maintenance and easy to take care of. And probably coming up with this is full glass. And so this actually will be able to be hopefully a terrarium. I'm going to have to figure out with a welder how to get enough air into it for airflow. But for the most part, that's actually probably going to be like all plants. So yeah. And then, I'll be working with artists because the walls are great, but they're very bare. And so because in college I pursued art and thought about doing that full time instead of going to law school, trying to give that back. And so the walls are going to be what I'm calling a wandering exhibit and like a wandering gallery. So the intention is there are certain pieces that I will be acquiring for myself, for my own collection, but also I want to represent artists all around the world and give them the opportunity, especially if there's certain clients that they're trying to market to in Austin, but they're in Latin America, for example, or in Europe, and they don't have the place to be able to do that in a gallery to actually like give them the opportunity, to do that and maybe even come socialize with us, actually do like a video about their pieces. And so I'm hopeful that we can showcase an artist here or there behind us. And you're nodding your head and like, yes, yes, yes. Brian and I have always been trying to do this to give back to our community. It's not like Socializing Security has given me some really incredible opportunities as a content creator. And so I'm super grateful for the platform that we're building, but I want to make sure that we're using this for good and also are able to inspire other content creators, other artists, whether that's in the video space, in digital or mixed media, sculpture, whatever they want. I have enough space to actually be able to showcase them. And then also there's a bunch of potential buyers actually within the space too, who also have blank walls that might want art. So we can figure out what that looks like long term. But the intention is that I went to Art Miami to really actually meet artists that, are doing some really amazing things also for their local environments and their local communities. And I'd like to showcase their work and give back in that way. So some really cool plans for myself of how my art will be representing and how my clients will be showcased and celebrated in this space at Torote Co. But a lot of it is just trying to figure out how I can do good to give back and inspire others. So that's kind of what the walls is probably the part I'm the most excited about. But I did really thought instead of going to law school, I really thought about just like doing art full time in New York City. So this has taken a very long time to get back to that. But I know my art thesis advisor and professor would be really proud. So that's good.
Yeah.
Let me walk up the
Awesome.
stairs slowly, but I'll kind of do the aerial here. So this is actual garage door. This is my actual space. This is where you walk in. Actually, a parking space in front. This building is a 4-story building, and I will probably be able to, towards the end, I'll join from the 4th story so y'all can actually see what the community space looks like, where we can actually also host larger events. But so this is what I'm calling the coffee house and kitchen. This is the coffee bar that will actually be like a professional grade espresso machine there. And then this again is Cyber Counsel. This is my law firm, still super messy. And then we will make sure that we're going to have bar tops. So there's additional seating, and those are going to be custom built so that they can fold down again so that the space can continue to flex with different events and whatever we're doing. The first event that I'm hosting that I'm testing is actually I have a book club, and we're doing a Galentine's Day event to actually like open the space privately so my staff, we can figure out what's working and works, what's not, versus as opposed to kicking it off for the HERS conference in March. So yeah, this right now is Compliance Counsel is this. Compliance Counsel is me for the most part right now. And then we have a bunch of fractional execs that are remote. So I would say Compliance Counsel is here. And then we do have like desks that people can just like remote into. And the goal is for me, I used to audit spaces like WeWork. And so I've learned a lot of like what the co-working space, like how that model is supposed to work from like a physical security, IT perspective. So for me, the intention is that these will be set up as true like spaces where everything is basically there so that Brian, when he happens to be remoting in, he could just come actually into the space and just like, dock in, doesn't have to spend 20, 30 minutes actually like figuring out how his tech works, because that to me is just a waste of everybody's time. So I want to make sure we're going to have like true monitors, we're going to have keyboards, everything ready to go. It'll all be tagged because obviously I do massive tracking and tagging for my clients. So it's the same way here. People, there will also probably be eventually potentially like additional stuff that people could check out if they really, for some reason, like if they forgot their laptop, whatever, they can actually just borrow a laptop, borrow a tablet to just get work done. Because I absolutely hate when we spend time just like, oh, my laptop doesn't work, or oh, my video camera, it's like just ineffective. So I want to make sure that the company is supporting that and making sure that we actually have tech that works. I'll say that, and I'm sure it will break all the time, and that's fine. But
that's what tech
I do
does.
also have, sorry.
That's what tech does.
Yeah. I do have some fun pieces too, because for my sales hero that like really actually at the company that Brian and I worked at together a long time ago, when they were really showing me the ropes of what like corporate tech and like how to be the best lawyer I could be for those internal customers, we would also play golf. So there actually is already going to be a little 9-foot mini putt that, because also stuff is just supposed to be fun. Again, sometimes I work with all different kind of clients. I represent clients that are in their teens up to into their like pretty much almost like every generation at this point. And so I also just try to make sure that those individuals or their families can come in and just also have fun. So, we have toys that are for adults and for kids. And most of this stuff, if they break it, it doesn't matter because I will be getting most of the stuff plastic so that I'm not dealing with glass because it's a commercial space. But I will show that there's a bunch of brand new puzzles and Lego sets, specifically with Brian thought in mind. The flowers are obviously for me, the floral Legos. And there is one that I think is like this Pokemon Lego set that I need to build. It's a unicorn, which is like my Patronus. I have some car racing ones. These are like puzzles that are 40. Is this 40? I don't know. Yeah, it's a 40 puzzle. This is a Mercedes. I have, I don't know, Notre Dame, I think. Yeah, I want to say this is Notre Dame. I studied abroad in Paris. And then obviously we just have some really sweet Star Wars puzzles. I'm sure Brian will think on how he wants to contribute of whatever puzzle or Lego he wants to show up with and build while we're getting ready for the HERS conference in March, and our true like first in-person live event that I'm hopeful will be around motorsport, and we need to keep working on getting the right people for that. Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll show the space again, but I think that's really it. So, and then I need to get upstairs. So you can talk for a bit while I lose connection. Well, let me get upstairs.
So while Milou transitions, lots of really cool stuff going on there. I'm super excited for you, Milou, and for us both. Obviously, a lot of potential there, and would love to hear everybody else's thoughts and ideas. Again, trying to build a community space means that we need to understand what our potential community may want out of it, may need it for, may find useful. So definitely would love to hear anybody's thoughts about Milou Space and things that she could do with it. Or if you just want invites to come have coffee once a week, I'm sure she would love to sit and chat with all of you as well. I think we need to get one of those iPad robots so that I can walk around the space and communicate with people and talk to people stuff too. I've seen those used at some conferences and mixed results, but they're pretty interesting that you have the ability to just kind of move around. People kind of take notice of it. So that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I love the mix of both art and everything else. And yeah, if you need to go in the elevator and get disconnected, so be it. Just rejoin it. I'll just keep talking until you get back online. So yeah, there's strong potential for mixing science and the arts, which is a big thing for me. A lot of people may be familiar with the phrase STEM, science, technology, education, and mathematics. I'm a big fan of the acronym STEAM, where you throw arts in there along between engineering and mathematics, because
Oh, I love
none of
that. I
this.
don't think I've heard that.
Yeah. So I don't know how much we've really talked about on the podcast, but Destination Imagination is a program that I've been super involved with, going back to my days in middle school, but particularly with my kids lately, and even with my kids old and out of the program, we still stay involved in it. And that's one of those acronyms that they kind of put together because art is a big part of it. It's not just about building it's got some of the elements of robotics some years, not every year, but it's not just about building a thing that can do a thing. It's also about building a performance around it so that that thing is doing its thing within the context of some other story. And so there's always elements of arts in there. And so they combine that together as kind of that kind of whole liberal arts concept. Like, you may be here to study chemistry and become a chemist or a doctor or pre-med or whatever that might be, but you still exist in a world where you have to communicate with people, where you're going to have to write stuff, where you're going to have to understand cultural differences. And you're going to be a better engineer, doctor, chemist, whatever that might be, by understanding the world that you live in, the world that you're doing these things within. And I know with my degree, there wasn't as much focus outside of the computer science. Everything else was just kind of like, okay, well, you just got to go check those boxes. But some of the classes that I took outside of the computer science degree actually were some of the stuff I still use a lot. One specific one that was part of my degree program was user interface design, and which taught me things like, hey, some people don't see a difference between the color red and the color green. And I was in a web development track. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be super useful because I design interfaces, I design web pages. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me, especially when they put the statistic that, men have a higher propensity to have that particular color blindness. And guess what? IT, particularly back in the late 90s, was dominated by men and had more people in that space that are going to have those challenges. Now, that's not strictly technical, but it's understanding the world that you live in. I love that you're melding all those different pieces together and creating a space that can support and encourage the melding of those different pieces.
Yeah, it's just helpful that you and I are basically like the same nerd in a different way. Really helpful. So you saw I went up in an elevator. So I'm up, there's a 4-story building and I'm up on the 3rd story. And then the 4th story is like common area. So I have the ability to have meetings in a true conference room. So I am now actually in more like a traditional conference room with a TV. I can book this at any time if it's available. And so, this has been set up more like a traditional conference room. And so this, looks a little bit more what I'm familiar with, more on the legal and consulting side, where, law firms look pretty much like this. Usually the chairs are a little bit bigger, but this looks like more of a traditional kind of conference room. But the thing that was really the selling point for me for this particular investment was the option that you come off the elevator and you are in Austin, and you are in the lake part of Austin, which for me is what home is. It's growing up close to the lake and close to water. And so this is actually the common area here. And hi, I'll show you the outside. I think it'll get loud, so I'll just show you the view, but then I'll come back in.
Oh, nice. I wouldn't mind having meetings out there. And if it's not too noisy, recording a few podcasts.
At least for lunch. It's really good for lunch. And it's cool because talking about like builders and developers and having them test cool tech. There's actually been a couple of small businesses and companies that are testing their drones, as well as some of their I think one of them is building something like with a clean oil or something for a motor engine or something. And so they've been doing all their experiments and their tests just like on the driveway, which is really cool. But so this part of Austin is called like Hudson Bend, really. And so we're about 20 minutes from downtown Austin, maybe 25, but this is Lake Travis. And it's actually, this is the dam right here, which connects Lake Travis between Lake Travis and Lake Austin. And so I grew up more on like this lakeside, but I'm very familiar with that lakeside. And so this is the actual common area. This will be where the HERS conference is actually set for the 13th of March. We actually have this whole space just booked for the whole day, as well as the night before. So we can do like a true welcome to Torote Co, like founders private event. And hi, success. So this will be reserved for us for that, like kind of that Thursday and Friday. And then we can decide if we also want it that Monday after for South by events. So I can just then take the stairs. Questions about the upstairs before I walk away?
No,
It's stunning. To me, this was the selling point. So it's a full kitchen.
yeah, that looks like an amazing space. I look forward to being able to hang out and see what you're going to do with that to do a conference type thing. But definitely lends itself to more of a, again, kind of that melting pot concept. Like, let's just throw a lot of cool people into a small space and allow them to interact and have a little bit more free form rather than it just being about, hey, we're going to do 10 hours of presentations and you're just going to
we're not doing that.
Sit in a bunch of seats and not talk to anybody the whole time.
No, we're not doing that. I'm so sick of going to conferences like that where I'm like, I mean, the content is really cool, but I also would like to ask questions to the speakers after. And then usually they're like, oh, sorry, I'm running to my next event. I'm like, why are we busy at a conference? Like this just defeats the purpose. So yeah, you can see this. Luckily, the way that I have it, I can just like walk down the stairs to my actual space. And it seems like the Wi-Fi, I reconnected to Wi-Fi instead of like the LTE. So this seems pretty good. But you can see, there's like, there's tour buses. Like this is a full, like a garage setup that's actually like tall enough for tour buses. So depending on the floor that you're in. So yeah, I can just like walk y'all through the space. I'll try to be mindful of people's license plates and stuff. So I'm not putting people on the internet. But this is, again, I'm on the 3rd story. That was the 4th story. And then as you go down, the garages are a little bit more discreet. And so some of them, like the 1st story is kind of more for like true, like classic car storage. But there's small businesses throughout all of the levels.
Yeah. I like that kind of mix of different things. And like you said, you're going to have a lot of car tech companies just by the nature of what it is, which I know is part of the scheme. Also, again, having a lot of different interests in people that are socializing and coming together create new ideas, new opportunities, new potential that we may not see because of our corporate America view on things. And being able to...
It's also such an area of burgeoning tech because it's like also one of the riskiest areas of tech. Some of the scariest data breaches have been in cars because if you lose control of your vehicle, that's vehicular manslaughter. That is my worst case scenario as a compliance attorney. So it's also a part where we can all understand. We all know somebody who's known somebody who's been in an accident in a car. So it's something we can all really agree on. So yeah, let me get back up to my podcast chair. And then normally we won't be running between. I will be set up and it will look similar to the background. I might even do some shelving and stuff. I did love that my at-home office was so custom that as people got to know me and stuff, they would know more about the backdrop. So I'll think about that more. Again, I'm pretty much represented all over the walls here so far, the furniture pieces, and the plants. There's so many plants. Look at this. Just like, these are all going to figure out like this. This will all be plant design walls. So these get really great lighting. So I'll be doing a lot of plant stuff. That is actually artwork.
Yeah. Yeah. I might use this as an opportunity to start learning about green walls because I've always wanted to build one of those. No, we should probably start wrapping, but really appreciate that tour, Milou. I'm of course super excited for this and for you in this.
This is also your first time seeing it.
It is short of the marketing materials and stuff, but yeah, it's man, I'm kind of jealous because there's a lot of fun that can be had in a space like that. But
you're welcome at any time. That's kind of the brief.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
I'll figure out how to get you soon out here.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be there in person soon enough. The year goes quick these days.
So quick. It's already the end of January, basically. So we blinked and I feel like it's still the new year. So
cool. Well, I hope everyone appreciated that. Godspeed to you if you've been listening to this as the audio only version. I had that thought halfway through. Probably one of us should probably record a warning at the beginning that like you're going to want to watch the video for this one. But
you can listen to us talk, but you will not understand. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. From an accessibility perspective, we do try to be relatively descriptive when we're walking through. So yeah, we'll stay on for and make sure that we kind of put our disclaimer ahead of time.
Yep, for sure. But really appreciate everybody. Remember that Milou is doing this as part of a community type thing, which is part of the reason why we do this podcast. So it all kind of blends together there. So definitely encourage you to ping us at info@socializingsecurity.com and let us know your thoughts on things. Milou, any
If you have
closing thoughts?
ideas, I'm so grateful that this has even happened. So like for those of you that like don't know me in like a corporate sense necessarily, like I am so thankful for the clients and for the friends and colleagues that helped inspire me and encourage me to go do compliance as a service full time and really like build out my dreams and my passions. I mean, these are things that I've been working on for a very long time. And so to see it be so real, it's suddenly for a lot of people, they're like, oh, wow, amazing. Like you've achieved success overnight, which isn't the case. But I just want to remind people that like pursue your passion, like to truly like figure out what it is that you just like care about so much. Mine happens to be compliance, which is a specific niche, but it's helped me do some of the coolest things around the world. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity. So to be able to invest my own money into this venture to do this like completely alone is a really big deal. And I'm having the moment to being like, holy crap, like I did this. And now I get to go figure out how to do more of this and to bring other people along the ride is so freaking cool. And I'm just so grateful for everybody that's been listening in, who's been socializing with us, who's also like most of our guests, the second that they heard, I was like, hey, like I'm going out on my own. And hey, like they were like, yeah, why haven't you done that a while ago? Like it was a resounding, like, yeah, you were ready a while ago. So I'm just really grateful for those of y'all that do also follow Compliance Counsel. And also, my law firm is Cyber Counsel. I have, I think, seven companies to my name at this phase of my life, which is so cool to say. And I don't think that that's going to stop anytime soon. So for me, I'm just like an entrepreneur and I just also want to be able to do good with my success. And so I'm so grateful for Torote Co. And I'm so excited about this. But it was also really, really important for me that our socializing security community actually had a place that felt like home in this space so that we could really create some type of headquarters for socializing security and that it's a part of like I was able to accomplish some really amazing things in 2025 because we set up the podcast in 2024 or 23, whenever we did. So like, I'm so eternally grateful for the experience. So thank you again so much for all of y'all for socializing with us. I'm so excited for what 2026 is going to be able to offer for us because I think this is about to be like a launch pad for us to just go do way more cool things when we're talking about cybersecurity, IT, tech, and compliance.
Agreed. And we'll definitely re-echo the thanks to all of you. Thanks for hanging on with us, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Socializing Security. We hope you learned a thing or two with us.
If you'd like to continue socializing with us on this topic or have feedback, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or social media. Just search for Socializing Security. Or you can email us at info@socializingsecurity.com.
Until next time, stay social and stay secure.